Right, welcome everybody. My name is Dominic Taylor from the Limerick Writer Centre, and you're welcome here to our Poetry Day Ireland event at Quay Books on Sarsfield Street in Limerick. So, all you lovers of the written word, welcome to an exploration and enlightenment in association with Poetry Day Ireland. Today we embark on a journey through the captivating landscape of modernist poetry, where language is moulded into innovative forms and expressions, and where the human experience is dissected with a keen eye for the complexities of existence. It is, as the poet Anton Floyd has said, it is the poetry of the extraordinary in the ordinary. We pay homage to the towering figures of modernist literature, whose words continue to resonate across generations, transcending time and space. From the fragmented rhymes of T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland to the bold experimentation of Ezra Pound, we're immersed in a kaleidoscope of emotions, thoughts and perceptions. Each poem invites us to pause, to reflect, and to marvel at the boundless possibilities of language. Welcome to the poetry reading unlike any other, where the modernist spirit ignites our imagination and illuminates our path. We're going to hear now an extract read by poet Oran Ryan from T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland. Oran.
Thank you, Dominic, for that beautiful introduction. T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland, Section 1, The Burial of the Dead. April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. Winter kept us warm, covering earth in forgetful snow, feeding a little life with dried tubers. Summer surprised us, coming over the Starngamgerse with a shower of rain. We stopped in the colonnade and went out in sunlight into the Hofgarten and drank coffee and talked for an hour. Bin gar keine Russen stammen aus Litauen, echt Deutsch. And when we were children, staying at the Archduke's, my cousins, he took me out on a sled, and I was frightened, and he said, "Marie, Marie, hold on tight," and down we went. In the mountains, there you feel free. I read much of the night, and I go south in the winter. What are the roots that clutch? What branches grow out of this stony rubbish? Son of man, you cannot say or guess, for you know only a heap of broken images where the sun beats, and the dead tree gives no shelter, the cricket no relief, and the dry stone no sound of water. Only there is a shadow under this red rock. Come in under the shadow of this red rock, and I will show you something different from either your shadow at morning striding behind you, or your shadow at evening rising to meet you. I will show you fear in a handful of dust. Frisch weg der Wind, der Heimat zu, mein irrig Kind, wo willst du? You gave me hyacinths a year ago. They called me the hyacinth girl. And when we came back late from the hyacinth garden, your arms full and your hair wet, I could not speak, and my eyes failed. I was neither living nor dead, and I knew nothing, looking into the heart of light, the silence. Land mir dans mir. Madame Sostostrus, famous clairvoyante, had a bad cold, nevertheless was known to be the wisest woman in Europe, with a wicked pack of cards. Here, said she, is your card, the drowned Phoenician sailor. Those are pearls that were his eyes. Look! Here is Belladonna, the lady of the rocks, the lady of situations. Here is the man with 3 staves, and here the wheel, and here is the one-eyed merchant, and on this card, which is blank, is something he carries on his back, which I am forbidden to see. I do not find the hanged man. Fear death by water. I see crowds of people walking round in a ring. Thank you, thank you. If you see dear Mrs. Equitone, tell her I bring the horoscope myself. One must be so careful these days. Unreal city. Under the brown fog of a winter dawn, a crowd flowed over London Bridge. So many, I had not thought death had undone so many. Sighs, short and infrequent, were exhaled, and each man fixed his eyes before his feet, flowed up the hill and down King William Street to where St. Mary Walnut kept the hours, with a dead sound at the final stroke of 9. Then I saw one I knew, crying, "Stetson! Stetson! You who were with me on the ships at Miley, that corpse you planted last year in your garden, has it begun to sprout? Will it bloom this year? Or has the sudden frost disturbed its bed? Oh, keep the dog far hence, that's friend to men, or with his nails he'll dig it up again. You, hypocrite lecture, mon semblable, mon frère." Thank you.
Thank you, Oren, for that passionate rendition of Burial of the Dead from the Wasteland. Now I'd like to introduce the proprietor of Quay Books, Mr. Pat McMahon, who's going to give us a rendition of John Berryman's poem, Dream Song 29.
Thank you, Dominic. I'm going to read, as I said, Dream Song 29. John Berryman read this poem in Dublin, in Ryan's Bar in Beggar's Bush in 1967. And he read it with a certain style, as only John Berryman could. So as well as reading the poem, I'll also attempt John Berryman's style of reading, but I'll do the best I can. And just remember that the pauses in the poem have almost the same length as the poem itself. Dream Song 29. There sat down once a thing on Henry's heart, so heavy. If he had 100 years and more, and weeping, sleepless, in all them time, Henry could not make good. Starts again, always in Henry's ears. The little cough somewhere, an odour, a chime. And there is another thing he has in mind, like a grave Siamese face. 1,000 years would fail to blur the still profiled reproach of. Ghastly, with open eyes, he attends. Blind, all the bells say, too late. This is not for tears, thinking. But never did Henry, as he thought he did, end anyone, and hacked the body up and hid the pieces where they may be found. He knows he went over everyone, and nobody's missing. Often he reckons in the dawn them up. Nobody is ever missing.
Thank you, Pat, for that rendition of that. We won't be reporting Henry to the police.
Just for today.
Not for today, anyway. While we're here today, Pat McMahon has organised a poetry display of posters, and Pat is going to talk a little bit about those posters now. So I'm going to hand over to you again, Pat, to go through the posters.
So for Poetry Ireland Day, we have a small exhibition of posters on here in the shop. We have 12 posters in all, which visitors to the shop can see. and they tend to be
Do you take second-hand books? No, free.
they tend to be books by posters which deal with poems in translation. The first one I'd like to quote from is from the French poet Christian Bobbin. I was actually talking earlier, I was saying I was in Dublin and I was watching a very good woman singer sing Hey That's No Way to Say Goodbye by Leonard Cohen. And now everybody just walks past, although the rendition of the poem is absolutely amazing. So what Christian Bobbin says is, I expect from a poem that it slits my throat and resuscitates me. And hopefully that's what we're all looking for when we browse the poetry section of a bookshop or a library. We are looking for something that will turn us up and turn our world upside down. And there is quite an amount of poetry which is these days not very challenging, so that when we do find a poetry collection that heaves at our being, we want to grab it and cradle it and rush home with it for fear that it might suddenly disappear. Just two more posters. We have Caballero Bonald's a Spanish poet who says, a poet can never say the obvious or offer us a photocopy. Instead, he gives us an interpretation of a reality, a way to delve deeper into it, to seek out its enigmas. And he says it's a way of getting, of multiplying our perceptions, of beating the banalities that lurk around every corner in this barbarian world that is devoted body and soul to insignificant things. So a poet can never say the obvious. I think that's a fantastic quotation by Caballero Bonald, who's a Spanish poet. And the last point I want to make is by Gunther Kunart, okay? Today you go on social media and it's an echo chamber, okay? Everybody wants to read what everybody else is thinking. So, what Gunnar says is, do we actually read poems to find our views confirmed, as happens on social media, to find our views confirmed? He says, hardly, because these are the bad poems. We read poems because they express something we do not know, because they voice something we always felt but were unable to express, because the best poems put into words what cannot be captured in words, which is a contradiction. A consummate poem marks the poetic movement in which the contradiction is solved. In one verse, one line, one word, one syllable. Gunther Kunart's idea about poetry. Thank you.
Right, thank you very Pat for that really interesting sort of walk around your shop here and some of the posters that you have on display, and they're going to be on display for a few weeks still,
Yeah,
so
indeed,
anybody
yeah,
wants to come
yeah,
in,
yeah.
They're more than welcome to come into Quay Books. Now, the next poem we're going to read is again by T.S. Eliot. It's called The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, and I think this poem is probably most people who look at or listen or read modernist poetry would say this is probably their favourite. And I first came across it when I was doing my Leaving Cert, which is a few years ago now. And I don't know if it's still on. Is it still on the curriculums?
Asked the wrong man, so.
I'm asking the wrong man. Okay, don't worry. Okay, I'll do a quick rendition of it anyway. The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky, like a patient eaterized upon a table. Let us go to certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights in one-night cheap hotels and sawdust restaurants with oyster shells. Streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent, to lead you to an overwhelming question. Oh, do not ask, what is it? Let us go, make our visit. In the room the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. The yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes, the yellow smoke that rubs its muzzle on the window panes, licked its tongue into the corners of the evening, lingered upon the pools that stand in drains, let fall upon its back, and soot that falls from chimneys, slipped by the terrace, make a sudden leap, and seeing that it was a soft October night, curled once about the house and fell asleep. And indeed, there will be time for the yellow smoke that slides along the street, rubbing its back upon the window panes. There will be time to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. There will be time to murder and create, and time for all the works and days of hands that lift and drop a question on your plate. Time for you and time for me, and time yet for 100 indecisions, and for 100 visions and revisions, before the taking of toast and tea. In the room the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. Okay, so that's our little reading for today. Thank you all for coming. I'll leave you with just a couple of short poems, or do you want to read them, Pat, the William Carlos Williams?
Okay.
Yeah, I'll leave you, hand you back to Pat, who will take us to another one or two poems. Oh.
Just to tell you, William Carlos Williams, right, American poet, he was a family doctor, okay? He's a famous American poet, but he worked full-time as a family doctor, okay? And he had a huge amount of life experience. Part of his work as a doctor was delivering babies and so on, you know, so he had fantastic life experience, and this is evident in the poems. This is about a red wheelbarrow. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow, glazed with rain, water beside the white chickens.
Thank you, Pat. So I'm going to finish just with a very quick one. It's by probably not the inventor, but who popularized modernism in many ways, Ezra Pound, the American poet. And his most famous poem, a short little haiku type poem, it's called In a Station at the Metro. In a station of the metro. The apparition of these faces in the crowd. Petals on a wet black bough. The apparition of these faces in the crowd. Petals on a wet black bough. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming.